This is Saurabh, and you're listening to my favorite talk show, the PG Show with Aditya.
Time for episode number 236 on the 20th of July 2020. What all do we have in store for you tonight? Hold on, hold your horses, people. The schedule will be revealed as we go on further in this episode. So let's begin part 1 of this episode by I leave it to my listeners to guess what part 1 of this episode will be. Is the strain I asked him if he would have a cucumber sandwich, but with an impassioned gesture he indicated that he was not in the market for cucumber sandwiches, though I could have told him, for I had found them excellent, that he was passing up a good thing. Muffin? No, not a muffin either. He seemed to be on a diet. Wooster, he said, his jaw muscles moving freely. I can't make up my mind whether to break your neck or not. Not would have been the way my vote would have been cast, but he didn't give me the time to say so. I was amazed when I heard from Madeline that you had the effrontery to invite yourself here. Your motive, of course, was clear. You have come to try to undermine her faith in the man she loves and sow doubts in her mind. Like a creeping snake, he added, and I was interested to learn that this was what snakes did. You had not the elementary decency, when she had made her choice, to accept her decision and efface yourself. You hoped to win her away from Fink Nottle. Feeling that it was about time I said something, I got as far as but he shushed me with another of those impassioned gestures. I couldn't remember when I had met anyone so resolved on hogging the conversation. No doubt you will say that your love was so overpowering that you could not resist the urge to tell her of it and plead with her. Utter nonsense, despicable weakness. Let me tell you, Wooster, that I loved that girl for years and years, but never by word or look have I so much as hinted it to her. It was a great shock to me when she became engaged to this man Fink Nottle, but I accepted the situation because I thought that this was where her happiness lay. Though stunned, I kept a stiff upper lip. My feelings to myself, I sat like Patience on a monument, tight, and said nothing that would give her a suspicion of how I felt. All that mattered was that she would be happy. If you ask me if I approve of Fink Nottle as a husband for her, I admit frankly that I do not. To me, he seems to possess all the qualities that go to make the perfect pill. But he is the man she has chosen, and I abide by her choice. I do not crawl behind Fink Nottle's back and try to prejudice her against him. Very creditable. What did you say? I said I had said it. It did him credit. Very white of him, I said I thought it. Oh, well, I suggest to you, Wooster, that you follow my example. And let me tell you, I shall be watching you closely, and I shall expect to see less of this head stroking you were doing when I came in. If I don't, I'll. Is what he proposed to do he did not reveal, though I was able to hazard a guess, for at this moment Madeline returned. Her eyes were pinkish and her general aspect down among the wines and spirits. I will show you your room, Bertie, she said in a pale, saint-like voice, and Spoot gave me the warning look. Be careful, Wooster, be very careful, he said as he went out. Madeline seemed surprised. Why did Roderick tell you to be careful? Ah, that we shall never know. Afraid I might slip on the parquet floor, do you think? He sounded as if he was angry with you. Have you been quarreling? Good heavens, no. A talk was conducted throughout in an atmosphere of utmost cordiality. I thought he might be annoyed at your coming here. On the contrary, nothing could have exceeded the warmth of his welcome to Totale Tars. I am so glad. It would pain me so much if you and he were. Oh, there's Daddy. We had reached the upstairs corridor and Sir Watkins Bassett was emerging from his room humming a light air. It died on his lips as he saw me and he stood staring at me aghast. He reminded me of one of those fellows who had spent the night in haunted houses and are found next morning dead to the last drop with a look of awful horror on their faces. Oh, Daddy, said Madeline, I forgot to tell you. I asked Bertie to come here for a few days. Pop Bassett swallowed painfully. When you say a few days, at least a week, I hope. Good God, if not longer, great heavens. There is tea in the drawing room, Daddy. I need something stronger than tea, said Pop Bassett in a low, husky voice, and he tottered off a broken man. The sight of his head disappearing as he made for the lower regions where the snootful awaited him brought to my mind a poem I used to read as a child. I have forgotten most of it, but it was about a storm at tea, and the punchline ran, We are lost, the captain shouted as he staggered down the stairs. Daddy seems upset about something. He did convey that impression, I said, speaking austerely, for the old blister's attitude had offended me. I could make allowances for him because naturally a man of regular habits doesn't like suddenly finding boosters in his midst, but I did feel that he might have made more of an effort to bear up. Think of the Red Indians, Bassett, I would have said to him had we been on better terms, pointing out that they were never in livelier spirits than when being cooked on both sides at the stake. This painful encounter following so quickly on my conversation, if you could call it a conversation with Spood, might have been expected to depress me, but this was far from being the case. I was so uplifted by the official news that all was well between Madeline Bassett and Gussie Fink Nortel that I gave it a little thought. It's never, of course, the ideal setup to come to stay at a house where your host shudders to the depths of his being at the mere sight of you and is compelled to rush to where the bottles are and get a restorative. But the Woosters can take the rough with the S, and the bonging of the gong for dinner sometime later found me in excellent fettle. It was to all intents and purposes with a song on my lips that I straightened my tie and made my way to the trough. Dinner is usually the meal at which you catch Bertram at his best, and certainly it's the meal which I always most enjoy. Many of my happiest hours have passed in the society of the soup, the fish, the pheasant, or whatever it may be, the souffle, the fruits in their season, and the spot of port to follow. They bring out the best in me. Worcester, those who know me have sometimes said, may be a pretty total loss during the daytime hours, but plunge the world in a darkness, switch on the soft lights, uncork the champagne, and shove a dinner into him, and you'd be surprised. If I am to sparkle and charm all and sundry, I make one provision wished that the company be congenial, and anything less congenial than the co on this occasion I have seldom encountered. Sir Watkin Bassett, who was plainly still much shaken at finding me on the premises, was very far from being the jolly old squire who makes the party go from the start. Beyond shooting glances at me over his glasses, blinking as if he couldn't bring himself to believe I was real, and looking away with a quick shudder, he contributed little or nothing to what I have heard Jeeves call the feast of reason and the flow of soul. Add Spoot, strong and silent, Madeline Bassett, mournful and drooping, Gussie, also apparently mournful and stiffy, who appeared to be in a kind of daydream, and you had something resembling a wake of the less rollicking type. Somber, that's the word I was trying to think of. The atmosphere was somber. The whole binge might have been seen from one of those Russian plays my aunt Agatha sometimes make me take her son Thos to the old Vic in order to improve his mind, which, as is widely known, can do with all the improvement that's coming to it. Did England bat too slowly in their first innings that the situation is such that after it rained on day 3 and almost ruined the entire effort by the England batters to score those runs, albeit slowly, and then West Indies saving the match by avoiding the follow on? As I said, England does things in extreme. If it's 50 overs or 20 over matches, they try to go at 8 to 9 runs per over. But when it comes to this so-called format, the slow format, the traditional format, they try to go into the extreme shell and go at a slow rate. As we head into day 5 of this second match, could you believe how 5 days have gone quickly? More like 9 days of 2 matches have gone quickly. Then, of course, the Archer situation where he was fined for his first offense of breaking the biosecurity rules. Yes, he was suspended for 1 match, but he has been given a warning, fine, and he will be included in the next match. Now, in the hindsight, did England miss Archer? Well, if you have to go by the current bowling setup, which had Wokes, Stokes, Curran, Bess, and Broad, that's also a formidable combination. Were England missing Wood, Archer, and Anderson? Well, it's a difficult thing to say because they've got so many bowling options. They can rotate as per the need, and if they need, they can give every bowler a chance without any of these bowlers breaking down because of the small gaps between matches. Now the thing is, the third match is also scheduled to be held at the same venue where the second match was to be scheduled or is being currently in play. Did England go extreme when they opened with Ben Stokes and Josh Butler because they wanted to accelerate? Well, that part backfired, and now England are 37 for 2, means they have a lead of over 220 runs. And now, if England want to win the match, how much will they bat? Will they bat 5 or 6 overs and tell West Indies to chase 270 runs in 80 overs? West Indies won't mind that. Slow batting in the first innings probably cost England the match, rain or no rain. Had they batted with much more intensity, well, one can argue that the wicket wasn't conducive for that fast kind of batting. But when your opener makes 120 runs of nearly 400 balls and the other guy highest score is 176 runs. So out of a total of 470 runs, when the 60% of the score is made by two people and yet they bat slowly, and going at 2.5 runs per over will definitely backfire if this match is drawn. Now, the disadvantage of sending Butler and Stokes in the beginning. Yes, they wanted to send a message that we are trying to bat quickly, but it backfired. Both of them are now dismissed. And now come the slower batters who score at a strike rate of 25, means they score 10 runs of 50 balls. It will be certainly against the nature of the likes of Joe Root, Zach Crawley, Dominic Sibley to score fast. Well, Stokes is still there, but he will have to go into his ultra aggressive mode to make sure that England declare quickly, bat quickly, and give West Indies a target, and then the five bowlers can do something special and make it 1-all. Otherwise, it's going for a dull draw. Or will the England captain take the gamble and declare in the morning without scoring a run, and thus putting the onus on West Indies to score those 200 plus odd runs? Remember, they chased 200 in the last match in a similar situation when England was trying to set up a score. It's either a draw if it rains, or if England declare in a moment of trying to be different, and then ask West Indies to chase a total of 200 plus. West Indies will gather all that momentum and all the experience gained from the first match and try to chase the same target. Though a few purists will say that every ground is different, just because they chased 200 in the last match, it doesn't mean that they can chase 200 on this ground. Remember, in this sport, this is the only sport where each ground has its own statistics. For example, if you win a match in Bombay, doesn't mean that you will win and continue the momentum in Calcutta. As of now, it's a tricky situation for the England captain. Should he declare? Should he bat another 10-12 overs? Should he give them a target around 250, 260 in 70 overs? As I said, there's nothing unpredictable about this sport. It will go in a predictable fashion. Either the captain will declare and say that let West Indies chase those 220 plus runs in the allotted overs, or he will say that I will bat a few overs, try to make sure that my slower batters bat fast. Now that the roles have reversed, they have to bat fast. They are not opening. There is no time. Time is a luxury. It's day 5 of the match. Day 3 was already lost to rain. So yes, I'm curious to see how the captain, the coach, and the team management work out this situation. Of course, they are desperate to win. Yes, they batted slowly, but they did not take into account that rain would spoil one whole day. As of now, what's done is done. They batted slowly, they made those 470 runs. West Indies avoided the follow on by getting those required runs, and now it's pressure on England to do something dramatic. Remember, they tried something dramatic. They sent Stokes and Butler to open. It backfired. Now, what will the captain do? I'm equally curious to know. Except for the Archer faux pas which happened, so far this tournament has gone on smoothly. Of course, there was another incident where a bowler accidentally applied saliva to the ball and the umpires had to sanitize the ball. Well, that is just another faux pas. So I don't think it's a big deal if a bowler applies saliva, whether we are in a different scenario. Broadcasters have remained confined to their own zones. The sports officials and the players have remained confined to their own zones. They have found an alternative to talk to the players, where they talk to the players via video conferencing or satellite. That modality is being worked out as to how will they converse with the players. They've already put up a remote video conferencing method pre-match and post-match. The broadcaster interaction has been solved. Yes, it's a bit expensive with all those remote video conferencing method, but at least it's a method where they are trying to communicate with the players, even if it's at a distance of, well, kilometers. I'm curious to know what kind of decisions England take. Yes, right now winning or losing is not crucial. It's about making sure that a tournament takes place, as we have seen with other domestic football leagues, where Real Madrid did win their respective coveted title, while Liverpool and Manchester City and Manchester United have also done well in their respective domestic football tournaments. So this story of the sports being back is also old. Two matches have been completed, well, nearly. One will be completed tonight, means the second match will be completed tonight. As I said, apart from the faux pas by a bowler called Jofra Archer, who was given the right punishment as well as reprimanded for his actions, as well as making a mountain out of a molehill out of the saliva situation, which now could be equivalent to ball tampering and endangering your fellow players and match officials. But a solution was found, so let's bury it over there. As one said, that this could have put his fellow players, officials in danger of things. This tournament has gone smoothly. No ultra aggressive motives by either of the players. You could have played robots and it would have made no difference. Talking about robots, let's discuss this DRS situation. The role of the third umpire. Is the role of the third umpire crucial? Well, that's an interesting question, because if you look at how the DRS is done, the third umpire plays little or no role. He is dependent on the production team which create that ball tracking graphics. And those ball tracking graphics are influenced by the decision taken by the umpire in the ground. So it's the instinct of the decision taken by the umpire on the ground and the third umpire, who has access to all kinds of technology. Well, he doesn't control the technology. If you listen carefully, he says third umpire to director. We have a player review for LBW. Third umpire to director. We have a player review for caught behind. Original decision is out or not out depending on what happens. Then what does the third umpire say? Can we have a look at the front foot no ball please? That's a fair delivery. And then can we move on to front on spin vision please? As mandated by the International Cricket Council, the third umpire, who could be anyone, has to follow a certain script. This is a script which has been logged. You cannot divert from this script. You cannot make changes to this script. So this script continues. After the no ball is confirmed, if it's a no ball, you don't even go ahead. Matter finished. Then we go on to the ultra edge or the snicko, where a technology detects that as to whether the ball touched the bat first or not. Well, while the standing umpire has to do it with his original eyes, the third umpire, with access to over 100 cameras placed in the ground and the slow-mo replays, has a lot of time on his hands. Let's move on. After using the front on spin vision, where they check the snickometer or the ultra edge depending on which technology the particular board uses or what the two boards pay for, they then move on to the ball tracking if it's a LBW. Here, remember, this ball tracking technology is influenced by the decision taken by the umpire on the ground, the instinct of the umpire. But is it accurate? Well, it's a computer graphic, it's an algorithm. Either way, the third umpire has no role to play in this. As I said, the third umpire is dependent on the technology provided by the production truck, the production team, or the director who sits behind and does all the legwork of creating the graphics. So the third umpire, in understanding that how the third umpire functions, is basically a middle management between the player and the technology provided. Since we cannot directly go to the production truck, somebody has to guide them or tell them that yes, please do this next. Somebody has to take the final decision, which is of course taken by the third umpire. If you look at as to how this entire thing plays out, even if you place a robot instead of a human being and call the robot a third umpire, and if the robot has to follow the script given by the International Cricket Council or whoever makes this script, it would make no difference, because the third umpire, who has been a standing umpire on the field, why can't they also make an instinctive decision like it's done by the two umpires who have no access to technology? Have to make a split second decision. Just like in hockey, the two umpires have to make a split second decision. Yes, when it's difficult, then we go for replays. Even in hockey, the video umpire or the third umpire is dependent on the replays provided, and if there are limited cameras and limited angles at which the replays can be provided, the third umpire cannot do anything. So even if it's a penalty corner or a penalty shootout which is reviewed by the team, or if they want the same, if there is no conclusive evidence which is seen by the video or the third umpire in hockey, what they do is they tell the standing umpires or the field umpires that go with your decision. In this case, do these video umpires, third umpires play much of a role? They only see what everybody sees. But since we need somebody to make that final decision after being dependent on a bit of technology, which I'm fine with technology, that's fine, but it's that thin line between that instinct when you're on the field and then when you become a slave to technology when you're in that air conditioned room. This is that split which is not conducive to me, and the Hockey International Federation and the International Cricket Council will have to look at this minor thing where the third umpire is dependent on the replays, the technologies provided by the production team, who may or may not have limited camera angles or may not have access to a technology, or the server may crash and it may take minutes for the thing to load. So that's my question. If the third umpire, who was a standing umpire in the previous match and is now a third umpire, but as a standing umpire takes a crucial decision without access to replays, depending on his instinct and his years of experience, why can't the third umpire do the same? Why can't there be a balance between the instinct and the replays provided by the technical team? This is, as I said, a grey area, a very thin line between what is technology and how much it can be used and how you can balance it, and it's very difficult to assess. But looking at the third umpire, you can make anybody the third umpire if you follow that script. I've seen it so many times. They follow that script. They are not allowed to deter from the script. So it goes on like that. Enough of this third umpire, standing umpire conundrum and the technical replays and all that. Let's move on to something very interesting, which most of my listeners love. My listeners, especially who are cricket fanatics, will be delighted to know that. You would have already known that through print, electronic and quasi-pseudo media, that if once the ICC makes a decision after flip-flopping on whether to continue the World Cup or whether to cancel the T20 World Championship, and the pressure of hosting the Indian T20 World Cup, or what is called the Indian Pesa League, or right now Indian No Pesa League. This tournament will be conducted in UAE, that is Dubai and Sharjah. There are a lot of interesting elements to this which I will discuss, though not in detail, but just give an idea of what is happening. So point number one, depending on the decision taken by the ICC, well, they have not taken a final call, and how the Australian Cricket Board can host foreign players and all the quarantine and the testing rules associated with a sport. The Indian Cricket Board will host the T20 league and will take it to Dubai, that is UAE, which includes Dubai and Sharjah. Now let's look at this from the timing point of view. Those who have followed a couple of tournaments in Sharjah, that is when a certain team hosted in Sharjah because of issues back home. Now the time difference between not just Sharjah but overall India and UAE is 90 minutes, means India is 90 minutes ahead of UAE. Now the question is, at what time will they schedule the match? Will they schedule it at, so that in India one can see it at 8 o'clock local time, which means in Sharjah they have to schedule it at 6:30 local time. You can even schedule it earlier. They may not want to schedule it too late, because if they schedule it later, it will go on beyond 1 o'clock Indian time. Time will be a major factor when they schedule this. Will it be 6 o'clock Sharjah time so that they can do it at around 7:30 Indian time, or will it go further? So they have declared the dates from 26 September to 6th November as the scheduling of this tournament, and they want to release the matches schedule and all those things. Not whether the tournament is being hosted by another country, it's that our country is not ready to host any kind of sporting event. And should we take all sporting events outside? And why was only this tournament given so much of importance, when on the other hand there are so many other such tournaments which have been put on hold? Can the Indian T20 Domestic World Cup afford to play without foreigners? Well, the Indian Football League, the ISL and the I-League are certainly making a call on playing their tournament without foreigners, without any overseas players, as well as limiting it to 1 or 2 venues. If that happens, that will be seen, while we still make a flip-flop on whether the T20 World Cup will happen, because this tournament is dependent on whether the T20 World Cup happens or not. And by declaring this schedule, they have put an indirect pressure on the International Cricket Council to call off the World Cup, because when it comes to money, the term for the Indian T20 Domestic World Cup is Indian Pesa League. For them, hosting this tournament is all about the revenue, the ROI, and so many other factors involved, the pressure of the various team managements. On the other hand, the Australian T20 Domestic World Cup, or called the BBL, will be hosted in Australia. It will start 2 weeks earlier than it is often scheduled, and they have a full 60 match schedule. They have disclosed the schedule. They have talked to the respective team management, means the state governments, the local health departments, the country's health department, the players. Everybody has agreed to follow certain rules. But the most important thing is that while the Indian Cricket Board is dependent on some other tournaments cancellation or postponement, though they are directly putting pressure on them, the Australian T20 World Cup, Domestic World Cup, will begin in December. Yes, now the question is The Indian T20 Domestic World Cup is slightly popular than its Australian version. It has been for the past 13 to 14 years. That's not the point of discussion right now. Now, this tournament starts somewhere in December 3rd. The Indian players will be arriving somewhere in October. So if that's strange, because if the Indian T20 Domestic World Cup goes as planned and it is scheduled, it plays on, then that will affect the scheduling of the Australian-India series. The original plan was to start the India-Australia series somewhere from October. If they have planned a tournament from 26 September to 6th November, then it will kind of disrupt the India-Australia series. So I am confused right now as to how this will happen. As per the schedule, I know the India-Australia tournament was to begin from October 11, but if the Indian T20 Domestic World Cup is scheduled, approved, and the players also are ready to play along with the specific permissions from the specific departments in Dubai and India both, then the India-Australia series will certainly be disrupted. I have a solution for the same. Let's say the T20 matches don't take place and the Indian T20 Domestic World Cup schedules. So what we can do is both the tournaments start on 3rd of December, that is the India-Australia test matches start on 3rd December and the Australian T20 Domestic World Cup starts on 3rd December, and there will be a section of players who will not be playing the test matches. They will have to come in with the regular team because they cannot be coming in after a while. So is there any solution as to how these players can adapt to conditions and their bio bubbles? Well, I have a solution. Let the entire team come, whether it is the test players or the 50-over players, and what they can do is, while the test players in that 1 month time play the 4 matches, the 50 and the 20-over players can play the Australian Domestic World Cup, which means the Indian Cricket Board will have to loosen its ego about allowing Indian players to play other tournaments. That's the only way they will acclimatize to conditions and other biosecurity protocols. Knowing the rigidity of how the biosecurity protocol are followed and the rigidity of the Indian Cricket Board in allowing its players to play for some other domestic tournament, where that domestic tournament becomes more popular than their own domestic tournament, that is an unlikely scenario. But let's hope for the best. This ends part 2 of this episode. Stay tuned for a very special part 3. Welcome to part 3 of this episode. Time to end this episode by singing a very special song titled It's My Life by Dr. Alban. It's my life, take it or leave it. Set me free, was that crap, Papa knew it all. I got my own life, you got your own life. Live your life and set me free. Mind your business and leave my business. You know everything, Papa knew it all. Very little knowledge is dangerous. Stop bugging me, stop bothering me. Stop bugging me, stop bothering me. Stop bugging me, stop forcing me. It's my life. It's my life, it's my worries. It's my life, my problems. It's my life, my worries. It's my life, my problem. It's my life. Do you understand? I live the way I want to live. I make decisions day and night. Show me signing good examples. Stop telling me how to run your business. Take a trip to East and West. You find that they don't know anything. Everyone's getting tired of you. Sometimes you have to look and listen. You can even learn from me. Little knowledge is dangerous. It's my life. It's my life, my worries. It's my life, my problems. It's my life, my worries. It's my life, my problem. It's my life. Set me free, so you bet, so you lie. What you see is what you get. Listen to people and sort things out. Things I do them no more. Things I say them no more. Changes come once in life. Stop bugging me, stop bothering me. Stop bugging me, stop forcing me. Stop fighting me, stop yelling me. Stop telling me, stop seeing me. It's my life, my life. It's my life, my worries. It's my life, my problems. It's my life, my worries. It's my life, my problems. It's my life. It's my life. Oh yeah. Ho ha, oh yeah. It's my life. It's my life. Stop fighting me, stop bugging me. It's my life. Stop forcing me, stop yelling at me. It's my life. It's my life. This ends part 3 of this episode and also the end of episode number 236 on the 20th of July 2020.